Can you believe Lil Uzi Vert sold his soul? I can't either. But then again, what else could explain this? How does a kid from North Philadelphia become the kind of star people do not just listen to, but investigate? The kind of person whose tattoos become clues, whose jewelry becomes headlines, whose album covers start arguments, and whose every strange move gives the internet another reason to build a theory around him. By the time the world sees a $24 million pink diamond sitting in the middle of your forehead, people have already spent years trying to decide what you are. Maybe it is all a rumor. Maybe it is real. Or maybe the truth is even stranger. A kid from Philadelphia figured out that the world does not reward normal, then kept pushing himself further until nobody could tell where Cymere Woods ended and Lil Uzi Vert began. Because Uzi did not become famous by making people comfortable. Uzi became famous by making people stare. And once the world started staring, it never really looked away. Before the crowds, the designer clothes, the diamond, and the theories, you are Cymere Bissell Woods from Francisville, North Philadelphia. Even the basic details around you feel slippery. For years, public profiles listed 1994 as your birth year. Then, in 2021, you said you found your birth certificate and learned you were younger than people thought. Somehow, even your age becomes part of the confusion. But the place stays the same. Francisville, the 1600 block of Ridge Avenue. Row houses tight against each other. Buses grinding past. Summer heat trapped in the concrete. A neighborhood where life is not an album cover yet. It is just life. You grow up with one foot in Philadelphia and the other inside brighter worlds. You are the kind of kid who can disappear into a BMX video game or a cartoon for hours, chasing color and motion while the city outside keeps moving in grey brick and traffic noise. That matters more than it sounds. Because while other people might look at a street corner and see the same thing every day, you are already looking for an exit hatch. Something louder. Something stranger. Something that makes the ordinary world feel temporary. Music becomes that exit hatch. At first, your ears are shaped by the rap playing around you, Mike Jones, the Yin Yang Twins, Meek Mill, Wiz Khalifa. But by 13 or 14, another door opens. Marilyn Manson, Paramore, My Chemical Romance, the All-American Rejects. You do not hear those worlds as opposites. You hear them as pieces. The hard edge of Philadelphia rap. The dramatic pain of emo music. The theatrical darkness of rock. The bright, fast, almost cartoonish energy of the internet. Years later, people will wonder why Lil Uzi Vert can make a song sound like heartbreak, a party, a panic attack, and a video game level all at the same time. The answer is that you never grew up listening through one door. School does not hold you in one place either. You bounce through Sire, Northeast, Olney, and Camelot, moving from building to building like the city cannot figure out where to put you. You are not remembered as the quiet kid in the back writing perfect verses in a notebook. You are the class clown. The kid who wants the room to react. The kid who can get on people's nerves, make them laugh, make them watch, then disappear before anyone can decide what they think of him. That attention matters. Not because you know you will become famous. You do not. It matters. Because one day, a classmate named William Aston records a freestyle over Chris Brown's Look at Me Now. People start paying attention to him. They replay it. They talk about it. And you feel something click. Not inspiration exactly. Jealousy, the spotlight is on somebody else, and you decide you want to know what that feels like. That is how rap begins. Not with some perfect dream, not with a manager knocking on your door, with a teenager watching somebody else get attention and deciding he is not going to sit quietly anymore. In 2012, there is a YouTube video called Staketown Anthem. It is old enough that it almost feels like footage from another life. You are 17, still without the face tattoos, still without the coloured dreads, still years away from becoming a recognisable figure. You are going by C-Lab Vertical, rapping with William Aston and another friend as part of a short-lived group called Staketown. In one part of the video, you breakdance on a basketball court, grab the ball, dribble through your friends, and finish with a layup. That is the strange thing about early Uzi footage. You can see the character before the character has a name. The movement is already there. The need to perform is already there. The instinct to turn even a local video into something more animated, more exaggerated, more alive than it needs to be. At this point, though, life is still trying to pull you somewhere ordinary. You get a job at bottom dollar, stocking shelves in a grocery store. You last about 4 days. 4 days beneath fluorescent lights, watching the clock, thinking about why you were there at all. Your mother had wanted you to work so you could stay in the house. But when you quit, she kicks you out. Suddenly, the safe version of your future is gone. This is where faith appears on your face. The tattoo is small, just beneath your hairline, but the decision behind it is huge. Later, you explain that it forces you to focus. With that tattoo, you cannot just slide back into an office job, put on a suit, and pretend music was a phase. You have made the choice visible. You are homeless for a stretch, you are young, you are unproven. But the tattoo means you have backed yourself into a corner. Now the music has to work. The name comes together around the same time. Someone hears your fast clip delivery and says it sounds like a Lil Uzi. Vert comes from vertical, the direction you want the career to go. Up, Lil Uzi Vert. It is a perfect name because it sounds like two things at once. A weapon. And a trajectory. Years later, the story of your discovery comes in more than one version, which somehow fits. In one account, Don Cannon hears your track Uzi while driving to Atlantic City. In another, he catches UZI on DJ Diamond Kutz's Philadelphia Mix Show. Either way, the moment is the same. Your voice reaches somebody with enough power to change your life. Don Cannon hears the speed, the odd delivery, the detached energy, and does not hear a normal rapper. He hears an opening. Cannon brings in DJ Drama, another Philly native who has already become one of the most important names in mixtape culture. Together, they sign you to Generation Now, their imprint under Atlantic Records. Then they move you toward Atlanta. That move matters. Philadelphia is where you are from, but Atlanta is where the sound around you is exploding. Trap is getting bigger. Melody is becoming a weapon. Young Thug is stretching what a rapper can look and sound like. Future is making pain sound expensive. The city has room for somebody like you. And for the first time, you are standing close enough to see how a rap career actually gets built. You released The Real Uzi in 2014, hosted by Don Cannon. It is not the project that makes you a star, but it is the first proof that you are serious. You are no longer just a kid uploading songs around Philadelphia. You are inside an actual machine now, with DJs, studios, producers, and people who believe there might be something rare inside all that restless energy. In Atlanta, you find another important connection, Kesha Lee. She is an engineer at Mean Street Studios, and after working together, you reportedly tell Don Cannon that you do not want to record with anybody else. It is not just about technical skill. You need someone around you who understands how you work, because you do not work like somebody who carefully arranges every piece before moving. You move first. You make the song before the feeling disappears. Then, the songs start reaching farther. WDO, produced by DJ Carnage with ASAP Ferg and Rich the Kid, puts you in front of a bigger audience. The track feels like a handshake between different worlds. Your Philly voice, Atlanta energy. The rising ASAP universe, Rich the Kid's momentum. Then, Love Is Rage arrives in 2015. The title tells people exactly what kind of artist you are trying to become. For you, love is not peaceful. It is not quiet. It is not soft enough to fit neatly into a slow song. Love is something that makes you reckless. Something that can turn happiness into obsession and obsession into rage before you even realize what happened. The project carries a feature from Wiz Khalifa, one of the rappers you looked up to as a teenager. When you meet Wiz, you admit it catches you off guard. You do not usually get starstruck. But this is different. The person whose music helped shape you is now standing inside your world. The distance is shrinking. And so is the time you have to prepare for what is coming. By 2016, the rise becomes too fast to explain away. Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World arrives in April, and Money Longer becomes the first song that forces the larger world to pay attention. It is bright, simple, catchy, almost playful on the surface. But its real message is not playful at all. You are not waiting to be invited into rap. You are letting everybody know you are already in the room. A few months later comes The Perfect Love Tape, with Do What I Want becoming big enough to soundtrack a Jordan Brand commercial. Then, Gucci Mane links up with you for 1017 versus the world. Within 1 year, you have gone from the kid trying to convince the internet he exists to someone moving between one of Atlanta's founding trap stars, the biggest sneaker companies in the world, and a new generation of fans who suddenly know every word. You also make the 2016 XXL freshman class. Years later, that cover looks like a photograph taken seconds before an explosion. 21 Savage, Kodak Black, Lil Yachty, Anderson, Park, Denzel Curry, Designer, and you are there too. The smallest guy in the room, but maybe the hardest to ignore. At that point, people still wonder whether the look is too strange, whether the voice is too weird, whether the fashion is too much. They do not understand that the weirdness is the advantage. You are not trying to survive by blending in. You are surviving by making imitation impossible. Then, Migos bring you onto Bad and Bougie. The song reaches #1 in early 2017. For millions of people, your verse is their first real meeting with Lil Uzi Vert. You do not stay on the record long. You do not explain yourself. You hit the song like a spark, leave behind a few strange ad-libs and a burst of energy, then disappear. It is enough. Now the mainstream knows your name. But the song that turns you into something bigger is still coming. And it starts with a producer stranded in chaos. TM88 is in Fort Lauderdale during the airport shooting in January 2017. The trip destroys his normal setup. He is missing the charger he relies on, away from his usual equipment, forced to work with whatever he has nearby. So he makes beats in Fruity Loops through a portable Beats Pill speaker. Not in some polished, expensive studio, not in the perfect conditions people imagine when they think of hit records. On a laptop and a small speaker carrying the stress of an airport emergency. He creates a batch of beats and sends them out. One reaches you. That beat becomes XO Tour Llif3. At first, it is not treated like a massive industry release. It lands on the 4-song Love Is Rage 1.5 project, almost like a dark secret thrown onto SoundCloud. But people hear it, and they do not just like it, they recognize it. The song sounds bright enough to sing along to, but there is something dead behind the smile. It feels like the soundtrack to a person trying to party through pain because sitting still would mean admitting how bad it hurts. That is why it spreads. It reaches students with headphones beneath their desks, kids driving alone at night, people lying in bed at 3 a.m. refreshing their phones, fans who are too young to explain the sadness they are carrying but old enough to feel it. By the end of 2017, XO Tour Llif3 is SoundCloud's most streamed song of the year. It reaches #7 on the Billboard Hot 100. And suddenly, you are not just a rapper with a catchy song. You are the voice of a generation that learned how to sound happy while breaking apart. That same year, Love Is Rage 2 arrives. The album is made in marathon sessions. Producer Marley Raw later describes days where the team works from 2 p.m. until 6 a.m, with you jumping from beat to beat, never wanting the energy to settle too long. That makes sense. Stillness has never been your thing. The album goes #1. And now, the transformation is complete. You are no longer just a SoundCloud discovery. You are no longer just the strange kid with coloured hair. You are a superstar. But superstardom changes the rules. At first, your image is something you control. Then it becomes something people demand. Fans do not only want songs. They want the next wild outfit, the next face tattoo, the next stage dive, the next impossible picture. They want you throwing yourself into the crowd like a punk singer trapped inside a rap show, and you give it to them. You move across stages like the performance is not a performance at all, like you are trying to escape something chasing you from backstage. The crowd loves it. The blogs love it. The internet loves it. And the image gets larger than the person who created it. That is when the rumors become harder to avoid. The crosses become clues. The alien imagery becomes proof. The strange symbols become evidence. People stop talking about your music and start talking about what they think is behind it. Lil Uzi Vert sold his soul. Maybe that is where the myth really begins. Not in a dark room, not in some secret ritual, but in the gap between what people see and what they understand. Then, Eternal Atake turns that gap into an entire era. In 2018, you start teasing the album. Don Cannon says you record constantly, sometimes as many as 6 songs in a day. Fans know there must be hundreds of songs somewhere. The question is not whether you are working. The question is why nothing is coming out. Then, you reveal cover art inspired by Heaven's Gate, the cult whose members died in a mass suicide in 1997, believing they would reach an alien spacecraft. The cover is not subtle. It uses the group's visual language, its symbolism, its sense of escape into another world. Former members connected to Heaven's Gate threaten legal action. Now the album has everything the internet needs to build a conspiracy, cult imagery, UFOs, lawsuits, strange messages, and an artist already accused of being something other than human. Then, New Patek drops in September 2018 and reaches the Hot 100. A few months later, in Philadelphia, you tell the crowd the album is finally done. Fans think the wait is over. It is not. A fake album called What Is This appears on Spotify under your real name, Samir Woods. It is full of leaked songs and snippets. For a moment, fans do not know whether you secretly released music or whether somebody else has hijacked your identity. That is the Eternal Atake era in one moment. Nobody knows what is real. Then, in January 2019, you say you are done with music. You say you deleted everything. You say you want to be normal. You say you want to wake up in 2013, before all of this. That sentence hits differently, because by then, normal is no longer possible. The artist has become too big. The character has become too powerful. The fans start saying Free Uzi. Some blame Generation Now. Some blame DJ Drama and Don Cannon. The label publicly says you can release whenever you want. You suggest the situation is more complicated than that. Nobody watching from the outside gets a clean answer. But the drama becomes part of the story. You sign a management deal with Roc Nation in March 2019. Then you self-release Free Uzi. The song is pulled from streaming platforms within about a day. That only makes the phrase feel more real. Free Uzi stops being a slogan. It becomes a fight between the artist, the label, the fans, and a career that has started to feel trapped inside its own success. You release That's a Rack and Sanguine Paradise. You tease the album again. At Rolling Loud, you tell fans you finished the last song. Then, weeks pass. Nothing. Later that year, Futsal Shuffle 2020 arrives with a dance. It is fast, rave-like, animated, built for a world where one strange song can turn into thousands of people trying the same footwork online. Then comes That Way, flipping the Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way. It is another reminder that you are not interested in staying inside rap's old boundaries. Finally, in March 2020, after years of promises, delays, fake albums, online fights, cult imagery, retirement posts, and fan panic, Eternal Atake arrives without warning. No long countdown, no clean rollout, it just appears. 18 tracks. Chief Keef produces chrome heart tags. The album trailer shows you as an office worker pulled towards strange coordinates, embraced by cult figures, then beamed into a UFO. That is the perfect Uzi image. A rapper dressed like an office worker, escaping into a spaceship, surrounded by people who cannot decide whether he is joking. A week later, you drop the deluxe, Lou Versus. The World 2, bringing in Future, Young Thug, Gunna, Nav, Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and 21 Savage. After years of fans begging for one album, you give them 2 in 7 days. Then comes the diamond. In 2021, you reveal that you have been paying for a natural pink diamond since 2017. The stone is reportedly worth $24 million. Most rappers would put that kind of diamond in a ring, a chain, or a vault. You put it in your forehead. The image is so strange that it does not even feel real at first. A tiny rapper with a giant pink stone glowing between his eyes. It looks like an anime character. A comic book villain. A religious icon from a future nobody asked for. The internet cannot process it. Some people laugh. Some people worry. Some people feel like they have finally found the evidence they wanted. Then you explain that the diamond later gets ripped out while you crowd surf it Rolling Loud. Of course it does. Nothing in the Uzi story is allowed to end quietly. Years later, you still say you have the diamond and plan to put it back in. This time with stronger anchors. Even now, the symbol is not finished with you. But the mythology has a cost. the case involving Britney Bird brings real life crashing into the character. In 2022, you plead no contest to felony assault with a firearm and misdemeanor injury charges connected to a 2021 incident. The sentence includes 3 years of formal probation, treatment for mental health and substance abuse, domestic violence counseling, restitution, and a protective order. There is no cool way to tell that part, no fashion choice that softens it, no alien symbol that makes it disappear. Because when real people are hurt, the myth has to stop being a myth. Around this period, you enter rehab. You spend 7 months getting sober. Desiree Perez, the CEO of Roc Nation, is one of the people urging you to go. While you are away, only a small circle knows where you are. JD, your partner since 2019, is part of that circle. So is Yidi, one of the younger rappers whose sound carries so much of the world you helped create. While you are in rehab, Yidi calls you every day. When you come home, he is one of the first people to visit. That detail matters. You were once the young artist borrowing from people like Wiz Khalifa, Young Thug, Chief Keef, Meek Mill, and Marilyn Manson. Now a new generation is watching you the same way, and they are pushing you to keep moving. In July 2022, your use of they and them pronouns is publicly confirmed. It becomes another thing people try to turn into an argument, another thing strangers decide they understand because they saw one headline. But Uzi has never made it easy for the world to label you. That is not new. The next big move is not a long song, a sad song, or a giant comeback speech. It is Just Wanna Rock. Released in October 2022, the record is barely over 2 minutes long. Produced by MC Vert and Synthetic, it borrows from Jersey Club, Philly energy, internet dance culture, and the kind of raw momentum that makes people start moving before they understand why. The video shuts down Soho. The dance goes everywhere. Kai Cenat is there. Phantom is there. Too Rare is there. Drew Jeezy, one of the dancers tied to the song's movement, is there. The record does not slowly become popular. It detonates. Then Philadelphia takes it personally. The Eagles used Just Wanna Rock during their playoff run. You lead the team out before the NFC Championship game. At Super Bowl LV, the song plays as Philadelphia runs onto the field. The kid from Ridge Avenue has become part of the sound of a city walking into the biggest game in America. That is bigger than a hit. That is a homecoming. Then, in 2023, Pink Tape arrives. 26 tracks. Rap, rock, screamo, pop, rage, metal, and whatever else you feel like pulling into the room. The album becomes the first rap record to top the Billboard 200 that year. Nicki Minaj calls you and points out the obvious. How are you going to release an album called Pink Tape without Nicki Minaj? You do not wait for another album. You do not schedule a session for months later. You make Endless Fashion at the last possible moment and send it to her before the record drops. And another strange piece getting added to the universe before anyone can stop it. Pink Tape carries the scars of Rehab too. Rehab is not just a title. It is the sound of somebody finally admitting that the lifestyle people celebrated had started becoming a routine they could not control. At the same time, you are still playing with the world's idea of you. You cover System of a Down's Chop Suey. You put rage music beside melodic songs. You make an album that seems designed to annoy anyone who needs you to stay in one lane. And maybe that is the point. Your whole career has been a fight against the idea that an artist should be easy to explain. In 2024, you return to the world of Eternal Atake with Eternal Atake 2. The sequel arrives without advanced singles, pulling in producers like Cashmere Cat, Mike Dean, Lil 88, and MC Vert. Even after all these years, you are still reaching backward and forward at the same time, trying to bring old Uzi into a future version of the story. And in 2026, the pink diamond is still following you. You say you are working on a way to put it back in your forehead. This time with 2 anchors to hold it more securely. That might be the most Lil Uzi Vert ending possible. The image people thought was too ridiculous to survive is still alive. Still unfinished. Still waiting for its next chapter. So, did Lil Uzi Vert sell his soul? Maybe that question is bigger than the answer. Maybe people ask it because they need some explanation for why you feel impossible to pin down. It is easier to imagine a secret deal than to understand what really happened. A kid from Francisville watched somebody else get attention and decided he wanted the room to look at him. Then he found rap. Then he found melody. Then he found fashion. Then he found a way to turn every strange part of himself into something the world could not ignore. He made a job at Bottom Dollar feel like a prison. He made a face tattoo feel like a contract. He made Heartbreak sound like a hit record. He made a delayed album feel like a conspiracy. He made a pink diamond feel like a religion. And he made being misunderstood look powerful. Maybe that is why the rumors never die. Because somewhere beneath the crowds, the symbols, the tattooed face, the impossible jewelry, the label fights, the rehab, and the alien imagery, there is still that kid from North Philadelphia. Still trying to make the room look. Still trying to make the world feel different. Still becoming Lil Uzi Vert.